Welcome, welcome, welcome. You are welcome to day three. We had such an exciting time for day one, where we spoke about the art of storytelling. We had an exciting time for day two, and now we are on day three. Yay! I hope you've been having fun all this while. I hope you learned so much from day one and day two. And most of all, I hope you put into practice the action points and the assignment, right? Don't forget to tag me so that I can correct you where you need to be corrected, or I can just give you the thumbs up saying you did a good job. Once again, my name is Dr. Ishioma Elora Ona, the one and only chief story seller. Yes, and I'm honored to be hosting you today on day three's topic, which is setting the stage with context. Right. Now, as a storyteller, you have the power, right? You have the power to transport your audience to a new world using your compelling narratives. Okay, you have the power to influence your audience. You have the power to evoke emotions and inspire action. But before you can take your audience on this journey, you need to set the stage with context. Now, I'm sure you'll be wondering, what does Dr. Ish mean by setting the stage with context? What does that mean? What does that mean? Right. So, context is the foundation of compelling storytelling. It provides the necessary background information, establishing the tone and creating a connection with your audience. Remember, as I always state, you need to have that connection with your audience. You need to get that emotional vibe, that thing that makes the audience know you, like you, and trust you. Okay, and they have to see that you are authentic. They have to see that you have a targeted message for them. They have to see that whatever message that you are sending to them is not only relevant but has the ability to solve their problem or their pain point. Now, why does context matter? Context is essential because it helps your audience, to understand the relevance and significance of your story. They need to understand the relevance. Why is it important to us? What makes it so significant? So without context, your story may just seem disjointed, confusing, vague, boring, and the worst part of it, irrelevant, because any story you tell has to be relevant to your target audience, has to be relevant to your lead, has to be relevant to your prospects, has to be relevant to your client, or else it will just be a waste of your time and energy and their time too. So by providing context, you can establish credibility. Remember, we're talking about why context matters. You can establish credibility. The context helps to establish your credibility and authority on the subject matter. If you are a weight loss coach, if you are an accountant, if you're a lawyer, if you're a social media manager, a copywriter, whatever profession you are into, using context helps you to establish yourself as a credible person or an authority in your field. It also helps, it matters because it helps to create empathy. By sharing the context, you can create empathy with your audience, which is so crucial and important, and helping them understand the challenges and struggles you face. So once you can put it into context to show them that you understand their challenges and their fears, of course, using yourself as an example, it makes the connection even deeper. Okay, now context also matters because it helps to build anticipation. Context can build anticipation and excitement. It makes them want to read everything you have to say, gain all the knowledge, and glean all the information that will help them move to the next level. It makes the audience so eager to hear the rest of your story. Context, that is what context does. It builds anticipation. It creates empathy. It establishes credibility. And the last one is it provides clarity. Yes, a story that is not clear would just be a waste of time, a useless story, an irrelevant story. It needs to be clear, because when it's clear, understanding comes in much quicker and easier. So context clarifies the purpose and the meaning of your story, ensuring your audience understands the key takeaway. There is no point telling a story that has no takeaway. There's no point telling an unclear story. There's no point telling a story that has no purpose or meaning. So it must have purpose and it must have meaning. So we move on to the types of context. There are several types of context you can use to set the stage for your story. Personal context, that is sharing your personal experiences, your background, what motivated you, your motivations, to create a connection with your audience, because people want to see the real you. They want to see what you're about. They don't want any facade or any fake behavior. They want to see your authentic self. Okay, now it's also the other type of context is historical context, which provides it helps your audience to understand the significance and relevance of your story. Then the cultural context, which shares cultural it shares, sharing cultural context too. It helps your audience to understand the nuances and complexities of your story. Any area of your story that is complex, as related to culture, religion, family background, or whatever, issues surrounding your story, it helps your audience to understand you better. That's part of the clarity we're talking about. Then the industry context is provides industry. When you're using industry context, of course, that depends on the kind of story you're telling. It just helps your audience to understand the challenges and the opportunities you face, especially if your target audience are also happen to also be, in the same industry with you. Okay, context makes your story relatable. Now, how do you set the stage with context? To set the stage with context, you have to follow these very, very necessary steps. Okay, so start with a hook. Begin your story with a hook that grabs your audience attention. Provide background information. Share relevant background information to establish the context. Okay, I go again. Start with a hook, which is also known as headline. Begin your story with a hook that grabs your audience attention. Provide background information, share relevant information to establish context, then establish the setting. Every story must have a setting. Describe the setting and environment to help your audience visualize the story. Introduce key characters. Remember, we characters basically are yourself, your client who's the hero, and any other person that is involved in your story, the relevant characters, not just anybody, but people that contributed to your story in a very important way. So when you introduce key characters and provide context about their roles and motivations in your life, your story, your path, whatever it is, whatever important role they played, that's part of the importance of introducing the key characters. Is it your father, your mother, your friend, your colleague, your supervisor, your cousin? You really need to define their role in your life or in the story. Now preview the story. Okay, so when you preview the story, it provides a sense of what is to come. That's how to set the stage with context. It makes people yearn and want to read more and know more about your journey, because sharing your journey is what makes you more human and more relatable, and gives a deeper connection between yourself, your target audience, or your client, as the case may be. So we are looking at an example here of Emily, who is a solopreneur, and being a solopreneur, which is also the same thing as being a business owner. She was, in her business, she was having a very serious challenge engaging or connecting with her clients, because her stories had no context. They were not clear. There was the hook was not strong. The call to action was not nice at all. There was not enough background information for better understanding. She was unable to introduce the key characters to her story, and at the same time, The cultural and historical context, maybe as to the date and time of happenings, was so unclear. But when she started applying the rules of using context in storytelling and how to set the stage with context in her stories, in sharing her journeys, her failures and her successes, she saw a 30% boost in engagements after sharing her personal stories, because her clients were now seeing her in a different light. So we're moving on to the action plan, which is to determine your story's context in terms of industry, trends, challenges, successes, failures, highs and lows, and research relevant statistics or studies for comparative analysis, right? And then you can now incorporate context into your storytelling. Now, let me warn you, you may not get it right at the first time, but the more you practice it, the better you will become at it. So it's very, very, very important that you get this right. Okay, so and remember, I'm always looking to I know some people be like, oh, Dr. Ishan, her assignment again, day one, day two, now day three. Yes, I'm so sorry, please forgive me. So I want you to share a statistic, relevant to your industry. Whatever field you are in, there must be the data and records relevant to your industry that you can inculcate into your storytelling. Okay, so in conclusion, when you're setting the stage with context, it's a crucial step for compelling storytelling. It makes it more compelling, and by providing context, you can establish credibility, create empathy, build anticipation, and provide clarity. Remember to start with a hook. Please don't forget that. A very engaging hook so that people are endeared to read more. Provide background information, establish the setting, introduce your key characters. Please don't forget, it could be your clients, it could be yourself when you're sharing the story, and preview the story. Of course, with a strong foundation of context, you can transport your audience to a new world and inspire them to take action, because you have been able to overcome the chaotic factor and they trust you enough as the first point of call, to solve their problems and give them the required results. So I'll be seeing you in day 4.